Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Today I want to talk to you about the land delay. Land 1.5 was supposed to be out end of August. As I record this, it's August 30th. We know it's not going to make it. But we also we have reason to probably believe it's going to be out within the next 10 to 15 days. That's based on guesses from the community members that I've listened to, but also I think just seems reasonable given that Far Petrod is away and given that there was 4 key and critical problems that were raised from a coding perspective that need to be handled before it reaches Mav server, and then it's going to be on Mav server for a week probably. So we're going to talk in this video about how long the delay is going to be moving forward, when we expect land to launch, but we really want to focus in this video around why the delay has been good. That's going to be the content that you're watching here. I hope that sounds interesting, and if it is, definitely stick around, stay tuned, like and subscribe. If you're new to my channel, my name is Dwayne Cunningham, and I go by Infidel1258. You can call me 12. Drop comments on any video. If those comments turn into videos in and of themselves, I would be happy to give you a thank you of some sort, so make sure your IGNs are included. Thanks, guys. Now let's get into it. So, as I said, I think, first of all, we need to talk a little bit about the land delay. It is delayed. It was supposed to be August and at the end of August, and it's not. We know from the recent town hall that there were 4 key problems that were, I guess, raised by Weirdbeard, the basis of which is just the justification for not releasing. And the town hall notes clearly lay it out. Castles and keeps, grain relating to harvest. These are outstanding functionality issues before release of 1.5. Castles and keeps. That refers to taxation. Grain relating to harvest. That's about some sort of calculation around how harvest works. We can get into this a bit more in a moment. Totem fragments, how they'll work in time crystals. So I'll try to explain what I know about these, but it is a bit of speculation because I'm speculating as to how they might not work based on the complexity as I understand them. And I think it's important because I want to argue to you now that it's so important that we don't launch before these are ready. It's so good that the delay is happening because these are critical issues. These are massive issues, like castles and keep and the way taxation works. Can you imagine if you go to harvest and it's supposed to be 50%, but it ends up being 100% of your resources? How is the game going to sort that out? If there's even unique circumstances, one-off cases where your 5 plots that happens to, right? Because code errors and code, it doesn't just happen every time. In fact, if it happens every time, it becomes obvious. The real tricky code and problems and errors that happen with games and game development are going to be the ones that happen in unique or niche situations, rare occurrences, but then suddenly your 5 plots of land got no production because the taxes were broken and it worked in some crazy way. Or how about the castle where they keep getting no taxes because in some sort of niche scenario, the way plots of land are being activated with perhaps oversized monsters or undersized monsters, or there's a lack of DEC, or there's an interconnected nature between taxes and how castles and keeps operate, but then also how grain relating to how grain harvests happen. Let's touch on that now. There's tons of complexity with grain harvest because the way grain harvest is going to work is when you remove a card from your plot of land or you trigger a harvest, the game is going to say, okay, now we need to calculate how much grain you should be harvesting, but simultaneously there's going to be a calculation of how much DEC you've staked into the tract or the region or the plots. And if the DEC does not equate to the adequate amount for those cards, there will be a diminishment of the payout. This is important because that might have implications for how the taxes work. And you can see the interconnected nature there. And then totem fragments is something similar too. I think on harvest, you're going to have opportunities to collect totem fragments. And what if the game is just suddenly spitting out way too many totem fragments? What if it just starts kicking out because of some little, nuance, some sort of unobserved error? It's kicking out legendary totem fragments to certain people who have found the glitch, and it goes unobserved for 2-3 weeks. Someone getting crazy amounts of totems. That would be a huge problem from a valuation standpoint for the totems. But he would get them, move them onto the market easy, try to make some profit off that early acquisition, and then it's going to impact the valuation for the people who are carrying. So at every level, these major issues could be severe and critical to the operation and the functionality of what land 1.5 is supposed to be. Time crystals too. If the plots of land are supposed to, like if it takes, we know from the Secret of Praetor phase 1.5, the document here in front of me, you can see how much clearing plots, how much production points are required to clear a common plot. You need 1.5 million. It's possible to use 150. Hang on, is that right? Let me tell you. In order to clear a common, regular, natural plot, you need 150 time crystals. It's conceivable that on day one, you'll spend 150 time crystals to clear that plot of land. But it's also conceivable that you will spend some time clearing it with monsters and then say, not to heck with it, I'm going to use time crystals. And now, what if you've done 10% of the progress with monsters and then 90% with the time crystals? What if the system gets confused? Somehow it causes a problem and eats more time crystals or uses none of your time crystals. These are errors and issues that would have ramifications for either the tokenomics, because time crystals can and will be, they are buyable. So if they end up getting gimmicked in some way where they don't get spent when they're used, wow. I mean, these are massive ramifications, and I'm speculating entirely about how it could go wrong. But when you start to hear the speculation about how these things could go wrong, and you start to imagine what would happen if those things went wrong, as I'm alluding would be possible, you just know that would break land. Like if there was just, everybody was getting legendary totems, or if time crystals just weren't working and everything was free because time crystals were essentially infinite, or if taxes weren't being collected properly or being overly collected, all of those things would literally break this game. And this is a big launch, probably the biggest launch we've ever done. From a code perspective, it apparently is the biggest thing they've ever done. And then from a gaming perspective, it's probably the most ambitious next step they've ever taken. Because at first we built that card game. The card game is great. The guilds was a unique addition, but it's still the same battle brawler essentially with a few new gladiator cards. Separating one league into modern and wild, yeah, that's a big deal. But again, nothing has been or will be bigger than land 1.5. And if these core issues are not where they need to be, it's absolutely the best choice to delay the launch of land. And then FARP needed time to rest. I get it. So he's one of the key developers, one of the core developers of this project. He needed time. He had a vacation planned. The launch was supposed to be planned of 1.5 for, I think, to coincide with his leave. Like it was, the expectation was we'll push for end of August, we'll finish it, we'll get it out, and then I'm going to go take a break. But then it just didn't happen. The code's more complicated than that. The interconnection between these different major features was too messy, complicated, difficult. And on that basis, my argument to you is that it's absolutely the right call to delay this thing. I think we probably mean the end of September now, third week, fourth week of September, we're going to see this thing. But middle of September to the third week of September, I bet this reaches MAV. End of September, I bet this reaches public. If I'm wrong, I bet it's shorter than that. I don't think we go longer. We'll see. But I'm glad they're taking the time they need for these core issues. And one last thing, maybe the bit of optimism to finish the video. It sounds like these are enormous considerations. I just made the argument that they are. I made the argument that these 4 functionality issues might literally break the game if they're wrong. Does that therefore mean that there's a ton more work to do? I don't think we know the answer to that, but let's try and be optimistic here. The fact that these are big issues doesn't mean they have made zero progress on these big issues. When we see that they are working on castles and keep taxation, that does not mean that castles and keep taxation is completely at zero, untouched, undeveloped, not ready. It's probably ready in large part with some unique scenarios where it's not operating the way it's supposed to. That's totally different. It's not like these core key game mechanics haven't been touched, haven't been written, are totally undone. It's like they're done, but there's some sort of, they are aware of already issues with each of these. And those issues need to be dealt with. It's the right thing to wait. Let's get it right. But I hope the audience feels it's not like these major issues are just now being started. That's not the case. We're closer than you imagine. I bet middle of September to late September. And even if it's later, I'm not mad. Get it right. The important part is this needs to launch well. I want it soon. I want it today. But man, it's got to be done right. Thank you guys for your time and attention. I hope you're having an amazing day. God bless.